Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil background information. We're doing a creature profile and we're still in the realm of sea monsters, so we're going to be doing about Cetus and Hydra. So we're going to have a quote from a story they're mentioned in, then I'll give you the background details, and then I'll give you the profiles for the creatures in my Veil universe. So let's get into it. There's a Cetus in the waters around here, and no one thought to put up a simple sign on the beach saying no swimming Cetus. We have a fountain warning for Hydras, for God's sake. Quote from Reciprocity. Initially I was going to write about Cetus and the Nereids, but then I realised putting Cetus and Hydra together made more sense. How come? They're both water monsters with constellations in the sky at night. Both got killed by a son of Zeus, and both have a weird link to envy/jealousy. So let's start with Hydra, or the Lernian Hydra, and simply put, there once was a beast called Echidna and a beast called Typhon, and together they produced a lot of monsters, including one, reputedly a daughter, that was the Hydra. The word Hydra today we now associate with water, and the Hydra was the guardian of the Lake Lerna, said to be part of the underworld. It is generally described as serpentine and often starts with 3 heads, the central head being the dominant one. Sometimes it has a big long tail, and sometimes it's like a weaver on 2 legs, sometimes even having wings. Its blood and its breath were poisonous, and it was a killer and eater of men. Now, the Hydra had the ability to regrow its heads once chopped off, roughly at a rate of about 3 at a time, and thus scholars like to link it to the sin of envy. Why and how? Well, 3 is that universal number of what you put out comes back at you 3 times better or 3 times worse. Thus, when you're envious of someone, it starts with one thing and then builds and builds until you cannot even understand why you were envious to begin with, and instead hate recklessly. Though the sins are a Christian invention, it's easy to see that there's been a mixing of the Hydra with Leviathan on that point. So, the Hydra's minding its own business when Heracles and his nephew come along on the second labour. He's got to kill the beast, and so in order to do so, he must cut off each head and burn the stump to stop it regrowing. Depending on your source depends on whether it's 3 heads that grow back, whether it's many heads already he's got to chop off, but generally all of them end up with the dominant head in the middle that might be immortal. This head Hercules cannot cut off, so he takes a boulder and crushes it beneath it, pinning it down under the rock forever. Some stories say that he actually cuts off the head with a special golden sword and buries it under a boulder on the sacred way whilst it's still writhing. The stump's all burnt to stop more heads growing. You can watch a certain amusing cartoon movie from the 90s, made by a certain mouse company that actually does a fun job with the Hydra, and well, the monsters are fun in that, especially the series when we get to see Mum Echidna and Baby Hydra. So cute. Now we move on to Cetus. What is Cetus? Well, we use the term now to refer to whales, and Cetus is another being thrown into the Leviathan categories at various points, but come from an equally famous Greek myth. In modern adaptations of this mythos, the name Cetus hasn't got the same ring to it as the Kraken, and yet Cetus was the sea monster that was going to eat Andromeda until someone flashed him a Medusa head. Now, Cetus, although regarded later as a whale, is often described more akin to the dragons of the Greek mythology, such as Drakon and Ladon. Sometimes he's described and he's noted as a he, as being a serpentine beast, sometimes more whale-like, and one description has the head of a greyhound or a wild boar, and whales and dolphins as parts of his body. He's also thought sometimes to have dolphin body parts with this doggish head. Maybe he was a very angry seal that got. Maybe he was a very angry seal. They get territorial about their spots, but sometimes he's viewed as the mount of a Nereid. So, quite short, really. They're in the category of the more sea dragon style sea monsters, and yes, Hydra is a lake monster, but in this instance I'm putting them both together as it just works. The Hydra you see also have links to the many-headed sea dragons in Middle Eastern mythos, such as some depictions of Tiamat and a 7-headed serpent, sometimes thought to be mixed with Mushmahu, as Tiamat sometimes is, that was killed along with 11 other monsters by the god of the hunt, Ninurta. The Mushmahu and Bashmu, as well as Marduk's own dragon, the Mushushu, I tend to count as part of the Tiamat group, although they are counted as sea serpents as well as dragons in most groupings. In the Vale, Cetus is counted often amongst the Leviathans, but the more serpentine are counted often as Hydra, as they too are immortal in nature, unless shown in Medusa head or crushed, chopped, and stuck under a stone. So, in the creature, serpentine, Cetus, and Hydra are viewed the same. So, sign, neutral, created by Leviathan and their spawn, created for, not applicable, created when, before the Veil. Physical description, serpentine beings that often have two flippered feet or even two crocodilian legs and a thick balancing tail, with one or more heads, are venomous and produce a foul odour that's thought to be poisonous. Their blood is also poisonous. They are immortal, only one head is for the most part, to anything but other powerful beings such as Medusa and clever dismemberment. Abilities: poisonous odours, venomous fangs, poisonous blood, enormous and living in waterways of all sorts. They can have several heads, and in the case of true Hydra, they can have a different personality for each head if it is needed. Most known for one slain in Hercules mythology. Weaknesses: only other powerful predator be weaknesses. Only other powerful predator beings, although it is believed that a demon dragon can easily eat them, though. Number unclear. They are not seen in the wild anymore, as they often take human form. That means no one really knows what they look like until one of their extra heads reveals themselves, or they get angry enough to produce their poisons. Well-known beings, the Lernaean Hydra in mythology is often spoke of. Characters in stories, the principal of the school in weirdest romance is a Hydra. Final comments. An odd grouping, the Hydra is not really seen or described much because it blends in well amongst humans when it takes a human form, and of course the Cetus, that is serpentine, can certainly live more comfortably amongst the Veil serpents than its whale counterparts. Also, sometimes I think of Cetus as like some orca that got the taste for human blood, but I don't trust dolphins anyway. Thank you for listening.